Welcome to Grammar 5P. In this booklet, we will have 3 explanation pages. We will be covering could, should, would, effect versus effect. We're going to review phrases. We're going to talk about interrogative adverbs, and then we're going to diagram with interrogative adverbs. So let's jump right into could, should, would. We're going to be continuing our exploration of helping verbs with could, should, would. So let's just get started with that. When we have could, should, would, they will be talking about possible events or situations created by the subject and main verb in a variety of ways. So we're just going to go through each one individually, exploring the different ways that they can be used. Our first sentence is, they could arrive tonight if they don't take breaks. Could shows us the possibility of the action occurring, just in general, whereas that clause at the end, if they don't take breaks, helps us create more context for why that's a possibility. Could you pass the beans? You can also use could to use it in a request. So that is going to be used generally with a question and can start that sentence. They would arrive tonight if they had a car. Would shows us the possibility in a situation or event that is unlikely to happen. So we're not using a negative word like not or never, but we're implying the unlikelihood of something, of that action occurring. They should arrive soon since we leave tomorrow. Should is showing us an ideal situation of what action we want to occur. And then they should nap soon because tonight will be fun. Should indicates advice or suggestion. Notice the helping verbs use can be better identified with extra context. However, you don't need that extra context after the main sentence, after the main clause. You can get a lot of context just based off of these helping verbs being used. There's a lot of inference that can go in to using these. So instead of doing some examples, we're going to move right into effect versus effect. We're going to do some examples all together with the 3 explanations I'm covering here at the beginning. So let's look at the explanation for effect and effect. The first one is a transitive verb to influence or to produce a change. Now notice I say transitive verb because it could be transitive active and it can be transitive passive. It just depends on the sentence and the context of the sentence. So let's look at an example of it. The cold weather affected the players. The weather is the subject of the sentence. It's completing the action of affecting or influencing. And what's being influenced? The players. The players are receiving that action, making this a transitive active instance of effect. The next one is going to be a noun, the result of a change, like cause and effect. Here we have our example. The weather's effect on the player's health was harmful. The weather's effect was harmful. So effect is our subject, was is our main verb, and we're just getting more information with our PA and the predicate. And so here you can see it's not being used as a verb, and that's kind of the main difference. One's a verb, one's a noun. There are other common uses of the 2 words, but these are the 2 we want you to focus on in this booklet. And lastly, I'm going to have us jump into interrogative adverbs. We're going to get to phrases after a couple of example sentences. But for interrogative adverbs, we are essentially looking at adverbs that are only used in questions. So these adverbs literally question the action or state of being. Let's run through the examples. Where did you get that cake? So where is modifying the action verb get, and it's questioning where it came from. When did you become a doctor? Here we can see that adverbs can be used once again with linking verbs or action verbs. And notice that it is modifying the main verb, not helping verbs. So always remember that. Now, how is unique, and we're going to cover that alone on its own. So you can see that how is an adverb that can describe a verb. It can also describe an adverb or an adjective. It kind of shows you the degree or extent of the other modifier. So let's look at that. How did you do in the game? It's asking about the condition of how you did, right? And then the next one is, how well did you do in the game? To what extent did you do well? And then how good are you at the game? Once again, telling us to what degree or what extent are you good at something. Our most common interrogative adverbs are how, when, where, and why. And so you'll notice that these four interrogative adverbs are essentially what we used to introduce adverbs to back in Grammar 3. These are the type of things that we would have you analyze to see if it was an adverb in a sentence. And so now we're kind of flipping it on its head and saying that these questions that you use to ask to identify adverbs, they are now adverbs themselves. They're just used in questions alone. So like I said, we're going to put all three of these things together, and we're going to look at an activity that you've been doing for a while. It's just going to be slightly different directions. So with these, we are having you identify adverbs and all of the other like functions of speech like do, IOP, and PA, but you don't have to find the subject and verb in these. So first, we'll look at our first sentence. When should we have left? So what we want to do is identify any do, IOP, and PA. We do not have any in this sentence, but we do have an adverb. So I'm going to circle when, and I'm going to have it draw an arrow to left because that's our main verb, and that's what the adverb is modifying. Our helping verbs are going to be should have. Now, if you're unsure as to how to figure out what the helping verbs are, feel free to put these questions in statement format. We should have left when. So it doesn't really make sense because when obviously makes this a question, but if you want to reframe it that way, it can be very helpful. Our main verb is left, and we know that this is in perfect form. And then the verb type, well, it is an action that is taking place. It's an action completed by the subject, but it's not being transferred to anything. It's not being transferred to an object or person in the predicate, nor is it being transferred back to the subject. Instead, it's just being completed, making it an intransitive verb. And then for the next sentence, we have, you could be ordering the book very soon. So in this instance, we do have a direct object, book, and then we have an adverb. It's just not modifying, what's it called? An interrogative adverb. Instead, it's just modifying a regular adverb. Very is modifying soon. And then what we can do is find our helping verbs. In this instance, it's going to be could be. And then ordering is our main verb. It is in the progressive form. And since we have a subject completing an action and it's being transferred to a direct object, we have a transitive active verb. And then our very last sentence is, how affected would you be by it? And so once again, we want to find a do, IOP, and PA. Affected is our PA in this sentence. Remember, it cannot be a verb in this book. And then how is telling us to what extent we will be affected. And so now we can go ahead and find our helping verb and all that kind of stuff. Once again, if you find it helpful, reframe it into a statement. Feel free to even write it down so you can analyze it a little bit better that way. Would is our helping verb, and then be is our main verb. It's in the base or present form, so I'm going to put present there. And then it's not an action being completed, so it's automatically a linking verb. So take your time through these books, reframe when you need, or through these activities, reframe the sentence when you need to, and just be sure you are identifying the main verb and seeing what's going on. Notice should, could, would can be used with any form of a verb. So make sure you're identifying both of the helping verbs because that will help you identify the form. Now we will review some phrases. We've already learned so many phrases, pretty much all the phrases you can learn. So we're just going to apply that knowledge now. So let's start with prepositional phrases. My dog ran through the yard. Where did he run? Through the yard, making an adverbial phrase. My dog with spots ran. With spots is modifying dog, making it an adjectival phrase. So remember, all prepositional phrases are describing or modifying phrases. A dancer had students control their movements. Here we have an infinitive phrase, but it's a bare infinitive, so you have to watch out for that. Students control their movements is our infinitive phrase. It's acting as the DO in this sentence. The yard to mow soon was overgrown. To mow soon is our infinitive phrase, and it's modifying which yard, making an adjectival phrase. I left to find the book. In this instance, our infinitive phrase is telling us why I left. So to find the book is an adverbial phrase. All of this to remind you that infinitive phrases can act like nouns, adjectives, or adverbs. Next, we're going to cover participial phrases. Learning the facts quickly, she excels in math. So learning the facts quickly is a present participial phrase, and it's modifying she, making it an adjectival phrase. I examined the map marked darkly with pencil. Marked darkly with pencil is a past participial phrase, once again modifying a noun, making it an adjectival phrase. So remember, all participial phrases are describing or modifying phrases. More specifically, they're always adjectival phrases. They can't be adverbial. For our last verbal, we have a gerund. My homework was my groups detailing precipitation. In this instance, we have my groups detailing precipitation as a PN. So remember, gerund phrases act like nouns. And then the last phrase to cover is in a positive. Jules, my cat with stripes, is eating. Once again, notice my cat with stripes, it renames a noun or pronoun in a sentence. That's what a positive phrase does. It can rename any type of noun or pronoun. It could be a subject, do, pn, op, io, any of those things. So just watch out for that. And remember, each of these phrases can be combined with others. So what are you going to do with all this great information that you have? Well, we're going to return to this activity. Hopefully this looks familiar. We did it in Grammar 3 and 4, and we're expanding upon it now. So what we want you to do is we want you to identify the part of speech or the type of phrase, then circle the function of speech or modified word, if applicable, for each bolded and numbered word or phrase. So let's identify number 1, of an oasis. To get context, we need to read the whole sentence. The caravan had to travel many miles in search of an oasis. So we're going to go to number 1. We're going to identify which phrase it is. Is it a gerund, prepositional, or infinitive phrase? In this instance, it's a prepositional phrase. Of is the beginning, which is the preposition, and oasis ends it. It's an OP. So then, underneath that, we need to identify what is of an oasis modifying. Is it modifying miles, to travel, or search? And in this instance, it is modifying search. And so then you're just going to circle that, and you will be good to go with this phrase. Just take your time through this. Make sure you're analyzing what this phrase is doing in each sentence. You've already been doing a lot of this. This is just a different form of doing it, and it's just going to be in a paragraph form. So now we are going to diagram sentences, or a sentence with an interrogative adverb. Let's read our sentence. When will the new rules for fielding the ball affect the league? Now, once again, we have a question, and if it makes it easier, you can always reframe this as a statement and rewrite it on a scratch piece of paper before making your diagram. But I'm just going to jump right into it, and as always, I like to find my subject and verb phrase first. I know that my subject is rules, and what are the rules doing? They will affect. What will be affected? The league. That's my direct object. When is a modifier for my main verb. And then I've got a prepositional phrase that I'm going to bracket like that. And then I can see within my prepositional phrase, I have a gerund phrase. And that gerund phrase is fielding the ball, making ball the direct object of my gerund phrase. Now we have some other modifiers in there, but I'm not going to do anything with them right now, seeing as there can be a lot going on in some of these sentences. So instead, I'm going to start by making my diagram. I'm going to make a nice long line. I'm going to intersect that with this line so that we have a subject and a predicate. And since I have a direct object in this sentence, I'm going to make a nice short line for it. And then I have a lot of modifiers. So I have 2 modifiers for the subject, and then a prepositional phrase for the subject. But that prepositional phrase isn't just any old regular prepositional phrase. It has a gerund as an OP. So I make a pedestal, I make a step for it, and then since my gerund phrase has a DO, I need a short little line. and then I have a modifier for that do. So I make a diagonal line coming off of the do, not where the gerund will be. And then, of course, I have a modifier for my verb phrase and a modifier for the do of my sentence. So now I can start filling it out. I will put my subject and verb and do. And remember, this is my main idea of the sentence. Rules will affect league, and everything else just makes it clearer and sound nicer. So the new rules. And what else is modifying them? This beautiful prepositional phrase for fielding the ball. So I put in my preposition. I write down my gerund. So field is my root. So it goes on the upper step. And ing alone goes on the lower step. Ball is the direct object, and the modifies ball. When is modifying my verb phrase. And then the modifies league. And that is how you diagram this sentence. Notice my prepositional phrase is very colorful. It's always important to remember that these prepositional phrases are modifiers, and in this instance, it's an adjectival phrase for the subject. So that will be our diagram for this sentence. Like I said, reframe the sentence whenever you need to and identify as much of everything to help you create the best sentence diagram. If you have any questions about this or any other grammar booklet, please contact the person who grades your grammar at your Gideon Center.